thing is because
Good morning, welcome. This is the Citrus County Planning and Development Commission public hearing for April 6, 2023. If you would like to join us at this time, I invite you to please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, please give us the grace to be understanding, patient, and tolerant. With these attributes, we can conduct our work in a manner which is be pleasing to Thee, our county, and its residents. In the Lord's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the courtesy of the applicants, the board, and those around you, at this time, will you please silence any devices or put them on mute? And just a little housekeeping up front. Please be courteous when people are at the podium speaking today. We appreciate that. Thank you. May we have the roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
The following Planning and Development Commission members are present this morning. Stacy Worthington, Chair. Richard Barnes, First Vice Chair. James Royce, Second Vice Chair. Robert Bass, David Bramblett, Michael Facemeyer, and Kurt Stone.
Thank you. If any person decides to appeal any decision made by the commission with respect to any matter considered at this hearing, he or she will need a record of the proceedings, and for such purpose, he or she may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, in which record includes testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. And one of these times I'm going to get that right. During public input portions of the meeting, individuals are given 3 minutes, and members or representatives of an organization are given 5 minutes. When anyone wishing to speak comes to the podium, please complete a yellow form and hand it to the recording secretary. Please print your name, address, and the number of the application for which you are speaking on the form. The yellow forms can be found at the podium by the door. If representing an organization, a letter of authorization must accompany the speaker and be on file. Comments will be limited to the topic being heard. Please state your name and give your address for the taped record. At this time, we are going to open the proceedings to the public for any matters you'd like to discuss with the board, not specifically the applications that we'll be hearing today, but if you have any general comments. Anyone wish to come before us and make comments? Going once, twice, seeing none? Okay. We have minutes to approve?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes for March 2nd, 2023, but I have one correction that I would like to make.
Yes, sir.
On page 5, in the last paragraph, the second line, the A between B and consistency should be removed. That's all, thank you.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bass, a second by Commissioner Barnes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Staff announcements?
I have no staff announcements right now, but at the end of the meeting, I do have a few things to talk to you about. And in the absence of the county attorney, I'll go ahead and move to ex parte communication. If any of the members have ex parte communication for the items on the agenda today, and we'll start with Mr. Bass.
None.
Site visits.
Site visits?
None.
None.
Site visits?
None.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay, at this time, if the applicant is present for AA-23-02, please come to the podium, and may we have the introduction, please?
Yes, good morning. AA 2302, Daisy Lands for Miranda Homes, LLC. This application is a request to amend the Land Development Code Atlas map and the Pine Ridge Unit 3 Master Plan to change the designation of one lot from commercial to single family. This is an aerial view of the subject property. This is a view of the subject property. This is looking north on Maple View Way. This is looking south on Maple View Way. This is looking west on Pine Ridge Boulevard. This is looking east on Pine Ridge Boulevard. And this is the site plan submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Daisy Landis. I'm with Miranda Homes. This is my first commission meeting, so I'm not really sure what the process is. We're here because we have a homeowner that wants to build a home on this specific site for religious reasons. They need they need the home to face a certain way for their religion. So we found this site for them. They liked it, and we're requesting to rezone it from commercial to residential.
Thank you. So, I mean, basically, this is your opportunity just to present your case, and if that concludes it, then we can move on to the staff presentation, which would be next. But if there's any other information, we'll also ask the board if they have any questions for you. So that's how this works.
Okay, I don't have any other information other than what was already submitted.
Wonderful. Any questions from the board or from staff?
Just one. We did receive some public input late public input opposing it. Do you have any comments on that particular item?
No, I saw that. I see it was all the commercial businesses opposing it. I haven't seen any input from any residential, from the residential side.
Okay. I just want to give her the opportunity to comment. I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you. Board, any questions for the applicant? Okay. Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Okay. Staff presentation?
And clearly, this is not Jen. Joe's pinch hitting today, so he's doing a good job.
Surprise.
Good morning.
Good morning. Joe Hockadell, Principal Planner with Land Development. This application is requesting to change the designation within Pine Ridge Unit 3 of the subject property from commercial to single family. So here you can see this is Pine Ridge Boulevard, which the property abuts. The properties on the right and left side of this slide along this portion of Pine Ridge are all commercial designation within Pine Ridge. This is looking at the intersection of Mapleview and Pine Ridge Boulevard. And you can see there's a single family house, a couple of them there to the left. And then there are other single family homes. The one on the left is directly across Mapleview, and the one on the right is directly to the south of the subject property. And this is the single-family home that they're proposing to build on the site. And so there are single-family developments in this area. However, Pine Ridge is a mixed-use development, and so it does have limited commercial space. You can see here there is a area of commercial located at the intersection of Pine Ridge Boulevard and I believe that's Deltona. And then there's also a smaller section of commercial right here with the subject property has the blue star on it. And so here you can see kind of the surrounding area. The subject property is highlighted in blue there. And so this request, it is compatible with the surrounding area. Obviously there's a lot of single family homes in this area. It is compatible with our comprehensive plan. However, because of the mixed-use nature of Pine Ridge and the limited amount of commercial they have, this could be inconsistent with the Pine Ridge Master Plan. But there are conditions if the board wishes to recommend approval of this application.
Thank you, Joe. Ms. Landis, do you have any questions for staff? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Board, do you have any questions for Joe? I have one. Thank you. If we change this parcel and downzone it, when the commercial property to the east plans to develop, will they have to provide additional buffering as going commercial next to a residential?
Yes. So they would be subject to the design standards in the Land Development Code, which currently say if it's a commercial property abutting commercial property, it's a minimum 5-foot type A landscape buffer. But if it's commercial to residential, then it's a 15-foot wide type C. So yes, it would increase their buffer requirement.
Do you have in your conditions for them to provide some sort of buffering so that the burden isn't completely on the commercial development?
No.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you. At this time, the public portion of the meeting will be opened. If there is anyone present in favor of the application who would like to speak, please come forward to the podium. Anyone? Okay, seeing none. If there is anyone who is opposed to the application, please come forward. Anyone? Okay, please come forward, sir, and then just remember 3 minutes for individuals and 5 minutes for organizations.
Good morning. My name is Davey Goso. I'm representing EDSA Development Services, and we are the one that was on the edge for the commercial use. We sent a opposition letter. Hopefully you guys able to get it. We were just concerned because we were applying for that one for a commercial one. We were planning to put up like a medical office there. So that's our purpose of purchasing that property. That's all I can say though.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who is opposed to the application who would like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close the public portion of the meeting. Ms. Landis, do you have any rebuttal to the one person who spoke in opposition? This is your time for that.
I just wanted to note that the initial plan that was developed for this community with the small portion of commercial property, it's several decades old, and we just feel at Miranda Homes that it should be revisited at least at this point to see if it really fits with the blueprint of the community. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to now bring the discussion back to the board and come up with a motion on this application. Anyone want to start?
Sure.
Okay, Commissioner Bass.
I have a concern with turning this commercial into residential, particularly for the fact that there are so many other lots within the development that are still available for single-family dwelling. Therefore, I will be voting in opposition on this particular application.
Thank you, Commissioner Bass. Anyone else want to make a comment?
Yeah, I would just say I'm echoing Mr. Bass's comments. I feel like that master plan, they created a break at that road intentionally. The commercial lots are all uniform on both sides of the road. It was a master planned and planned that way intentionally. So I think just cropping off one lot right there on the corner and putting a residential property on there is not in conforming or in harmony with what the intent was.
Thank you, Commissioner Bramlett. I would just like to say that, you know, that parcel being on the corner really made the difference for me, and then that it was not accessing on Pine Ridge Boulevard. However, you know, I agree with you about the uniformity, and I mean, I otherwise would not be opposed to the down zoning, but then putting that burden on the commercial property to the east to have to add additional buffering when this was planned this way, and there are other parcels available, as you said, so I would not be in favor of this application also. Anyone else?
I agree with all of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Royce. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a
For the-
motion, please.
Commissioner Bass.
The Planning and Development Commission finds application number AA-23-02 inconsistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and Citrus County Land Development Code, and that the board recommends denial of the application to the Board of County Commissioners based upon the evidence and testimony presented in the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bass, a second by Commissioner Bramlett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, if the applicant is present for CPA /AA/PUD-22-20, please come forward, Dr. Wilburn. And may we please have the introduction?
Dr. Michael Wilburn for CJC Crystal River LLC. This request is to change the land use on approximately 5.39 acres from LDR to MDR with a PUD for multifamily uses.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Hang on, she's still going.
Oh,
Sorry, I had to do some paper notes today, thank you. The site lies on the corner of West Seven Rivers Drive and West Venable Street in Crystal River. This is one of the roadways adjacent to the site. I'm sorry, looking west on Venable Street. Looking west on Venable. The site is currently designated as LDR, Low Density Residential. This is the master plan submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, now I think she's.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This proposed PUD is for a change from LDR to MDR of approximately 5.39 acres. The parcel appears, and you could see from that previous slide, appears to have been originally created by placing the property line along a jurisdictional wetland line to the east, which has now separated that property from the parcel to the east, which is currently owned by Citrus County. That parcel also being almost all wetlands, not developable. The current zoning of this property is LDR, which allows for up to 6 units per acre with a PUD. The proposed zoning request is for MDR, which allows for 8 units per acre with a PUD. We are requesting a density of 5.94, as you see in your staff report, which is less than the allowable within the LDR district with the PUD. The reason for this request to go from LDR to MDR, because some of you may be asking, we're within the LDR limit, so why go to MDR? LDR does not allow for multifamily or duplex units. And so we're requesting to go from LDR to MDR, even though we're not exceeding the density of the LDR, which is allowable. This PUD in LDR would allow for up to 32 units in a single family, and we are proposing this to be accomplished with duplexes instead of single family units. And the reason for that is in our land development code, which is cited in the coastal high hazard area in section I, it states, I'm going to quote it here in part. Let me get my bearings here. Okay. Residential PUDs within the coastal high hazard area should be designed and clustered to allow for an increase in open space. And that's LDC 3540-I. And so that's what we have tried to do here. We have clustered the housing. Instead of 32 single family units, we have created 16 duplex units. Within the MDR district with a PUD, this site would allow for up to 43. And again, we're only requesting 32 front doors in 16 buildings. These units that you see here, they are 2-bedroom duplexes. They're 1,093 square feet of living area and 1,153 square feet under roof. We are not exceeding the maximum allowable impervious or FAR ratio. For utilities on site, in an email from the Citrus County Utility Department, I'm not sure if you have that, this project would be served by both water and sewer. The sewer is along West Venable. There's a force main, which would need to be tied into with a small lift station from our site, and then water is available on West Seven Rivers Drive. The area on the master plan that is currently shown in white to the south and southeast, which borders the JD line, is proposed as retention area. This retention area is as follows. It follows the contours and it follows that JD line, and as you can see, is not in ordinary shape. This property is considered a closed basin in engineering criteria and will require a 100-year storm event analysis. As I previously mentioned, the area that is currently owned by Citrus County to the east is lower, and so we would be allowed, as naturally it does, to discharge the pre and post, or the pre-rate and the pre-volume to that site. As part of this submission, we were also tasked with providing a traffic study and evidence that the evacuation route and times would not be impacted. I trust that you have this study in your packet, but just in case you don't, I would like to read for you a little excerpt from it. Attachment D contains a table, this is in the transportation analysis, that summarizes evacuation times for Citrus County and out of county, and the shelter evacuations for a level A zone based on 2025 population data. This study found in part that using the estimates for the traffic generated from this proposed master plan under high estimates in the county and out of county evacuation times would increase from 1,140 minutes total to 1,142 minutes total. So keep in mind that these calculations are projected out to 2025, and the report found that traffic times as a result of this project went up 32 seconds in a 48-hour period. The traffic study utilized this number and concluded that there is no negative impact, that there is no negative impact to the evacuation routes or times, which are both criteria in the coastal high hazard area. So in your staff report, I believe you guys have a section which lists the 4 components and the criteria that are for coastal high hazard areas for R2 and R4 development. I would like to go through those with you guys this morning. The first one is that it has to be compatible with the surroundings in terms of density and buffering. The second is that it is not allowed to impede with evacuation of the neighbors. Third, it's not allowed to negatively impact their traffic time and clearance times in an evacuation. And lastly, all minimum standards of the LDC have to be met. And so for the first criteria, according to our LDC, as I previously mentioned, low density residential district allows for a density of up to 6 units per acre with a PUD, and we are not proposing to exceed that. Additionally, if this project is approved, this project will have an even greater buffer than the surrounding areas, not a lower buffer. The second criteria, we have provided with you guys with a traffic study from Way Engineering, which states that the evacuation routes will not be impacted. And then thirdly, the times. In that same report, Way Engineering states that the evacuation times will not be impacted. And then lastly, there are not allowed to be any deviations requested. We originally had asked for 1 deviation, and you see that in your staff report in terms of the landscape buffering. However, due to the lack of ability to request a variance with this zone, we have no problem accepting the landscaping buffers that are spelled out in the table in the staff report on page 9, which prescribes a 15-foot type C buffer to the north, 25-foot type C buffer to the south and west, and a 15-foot type C buffer adjacent to the county property to the east. Again, I want to mention that the housing is shown as it is on the master plan in an attempt to cluster the housing, which goes right in line with that same section for coastal high hazard that I just mentioned to you, the 4 criteria. Just a few sentences down, it says that the desire and intent is to cluster housing to allow for more open space, which I believe we have done. This project also was required before coming to you to appear and to receive a clearance from the FAA. We actually did this 5 times. The first clearance we received was for 1 location, and then the FAA came back and they said, because there's multiple houses here, we want you to do this again in 4 different isolated locations. And so we did that, and that was also approved and cleared and having no impact on the runway, having no impact on the approach or the airport in any way, shape, or form. I believe you might have that in your staff report also. From there, it went to the Citrus County Aviation Board, and the Aviation Board did not approve it at that time because they did not feel comfortable because the Aviation Board has an open clearance permit, and they wanted to know an assurance that our project, the proposed, would not have any impact on their getting their permission for their open permit. So we went back to the FAA and requested that they assure our Aviation Board that what we're doing would have no impact on what they were trying to do with extending the runway and other projects that they had in the works. And we have now received that, and I believe staff will also make mention of that because that came after the staff report was written that you guys have. So in conclusion, this PUD requests a density of 32 units and a change from LDR to MDR, where 32 units is allowed in MDR and 43 is allowed in MDR, both with PUDs. The project is serviced by both water and sewer. The project proposes no negative impacts on the traffic evacuation routes or times. The project has no adjacent neighbors. It is bordered on 2 sides by a road and a large county tract to the east. This project is no longer requesting any deviations in the Land Development Code. This project has received clearance from both the FAA and our Citrus County Board, Aviation Advisory Board.
and meets a need for working class housing in our community. Is there any questions that I can ask or answer for you guys?
Thank you. Any questions from staff?
Yes, please. Thank you. I'm glad to hear about the buffers. So you're willing to do the 25-foot type C along Venable, like the LDC says. It doesn't look like it fits there.
Can I answer?
Yeah, that's what
I checked that. There's actually 29 feet to the back of those little slabs that are there right now.
Okay, and then that walking trail can be outside of the buffer?
Could be, or within the buffer.
Not ideal within, but okay. And then along Venable, you're a 15-foot type C on 7 Rivers Drive. And so you got a lot of input about compatibility. This is going to be the back of those apartment buildings. So the 15-foot type C, are you doing anything else with that? A berm, a fence, or anything?
No, but because that borders West 7, we would be open to a fence, obviously, but West 7 Rivers, because it borders that road and that's frontage, we would have to have the back of those buildings comply with facade. And they would be dressed up per LDC because of that also.
And you mentioned 1,000 square feet. These are one-story
They are.
proposed? Okay.
The maximum height, I believe, is 14'8".
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, 13'8".
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Just one
Commissioner
clarification.
Barrow.
Yes, sir.
Did you say that the drainage retention area is going to be that large wide open space on the plan there, which is, I guess, to the south of the lots?
Yes,
South
yes.
of the units?
And the walking trail, yes, south of
Okay.
that.
Just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
I have a question. What is the ownership structure? Someone said apartments, but these are duplexes. Are these sold
No,
duplexes?
these will be owned by one entity.
Oh, okay. Any other questions?
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Michael. Miranda? Now we'll have the staff presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm Miranda with Citrus County Land Development, Senior Planner. This is a request to change the future land use map and the land use atlas map from low-density residential district to the medium-density residential district, and to establish a plan unit development for multifamily, specifically 16 duplexes. The property is approximately 5.4 acres in Crystal River. The surrounding area consists of single-family residences and vacant single-family parcels. There is the airport, Crystal River Airport in the general area. A portion of that airport parcel is on the top left corner of that aerial. And this is heading west on West Venable Street. The property maintains frontage on this 100-foot wide major collector roadway. The subject property is on the right. And this is looking east on West Venable Street. The property also has frontage on West 7 Rivers Drive, a 50-foot wide local roadway. And this is the intersection of both roadways. The subject property is on its left. This is turning right on West 7 Rivers Drive from Venable Street. There is single family along this portion of the road. And this is further east on West 7 Rivers Drive. The property is on the right. And this is as you head further east on 7 Rivers Drive. The proposed driveway for the project will be between the street that you see here on the photo and the next street. Skip this. Here's a depiction of what the proposed development would look like if approved in relation to the surrounding area. There are 16 duplexes, 32 units, each unit having 1,153 square feet for a total project size of 37,000 square feet. There are no similar type of uses in this area. This type of use may not even be appropriate with a PUD. In addition, any development or land use proposal near the county's airports are subject to the Land Development Code airport section. It requires staff to determine whether a project constitutes as a potential airspace obstruction by using the federal
Aviation Administration Notice Criteria tool. The results for this proposed project exceeded the notice criteria, and any project that is a potential airspace obstruction has to obtain a county construction use permit approved by Land Development Division. As required, the applicant provided a determination letter from FAA stating that the project did not exceed obstruction standards. As also required, the Aviation Advisory Board reviewed the construction use permit and the project proposal on February 9th. The board did not want to make a recommendation on the project until they received a new FAA letter stating and confirming that their pending application for the airport's runway extension was considered and would not be negatively affected by this proposed project. The applicant then contacted the FAA and received statements addressing those concerns, and the AAB board heard the application again on March 9th and stated they have no objection to the proposed project. This is the current zoning of the surrounding area. There are some parcels zoned TCU. The top left of that parcel on the screen is the airport, but the vast majority of the surrounding area is low-density residential. LDR allows up to 2 units per acre and possibly higher with a PUD. And LDR does not allow for multifamily. I know the applicant brought up that there's a potential for the LDR district to have 32 units, but by right, they may be allowed to have up to 10. So that is a drastic change. They may be allowed up to 10, and that's not considering the 100-foot road frontage that each parcel has to have. The applicant has proposed medium-density residential, and I depicted that in brown to allow for multifamily and increased density. As you can see, that would be inconsistent with the land use atlas map, which shows the zoning. There are also no other MDR parcels in the surrounding area. And here's the future land use map. Again, changing the property's future land use is not consistent with the area, and that's one of the reasons why this project is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. Another concern is that the subject property is located in the coastal high hazard area. The CHHA area is below the elevation of a Category 1 storm surge line. Some of the structures appear to be within that area. The project itself is in the coastal high hazard area, and I provided larger copies of the CHHA map and the evacuation map, so you can see that in greater detail in the packet. The LDC and the comprehensive plan state that comprehensive plan amendments for R2 residential occupancy, like this project proposal, is not allowed in the CHHA areas unless it meets some of the criteria that the applicant stated. There's 4 criteria, A, B, C, and D. A states that the proposed development is found compatible with the area and the development in terms of general intensity and buffering. However, reviewing the project, it may not be compatible with the area and it did not provide the necessary buffers, but we just heard the applicant say they will meet the buffers, but it still may not be compatible. B, the development's access, internal design, and general location do not create conditions which may impede the evacuation of its residents or neighborhoods. The applicant did provide that hurricane evacuation study, and the findings did state that the development will be able to safely evacuate while not negatively affecting the evacuation route. The Technical Services Division, formerly engineering, stated that the proposed driveway apron is an acceptable location. The project the project does not negatively impact evacuation clearing times. There was a slight increase of about 1.5 minutes on the evacuation study. Engineering states that the clearance times will not be significantly impacted. However, the comprehensive plan does not say significantly. It just states if the comprehensive plan amendments may be approved if the development does not negatively impact evacuation times. And lastly, that all minimum standards of the LDC have to be met and no variances are needed. And the applicant just addressed that he will be providing buffers per the Land Development Code. So as you saw on the CHHA map, there are some spotty areas, but overall the CHHA extends past further east from the subject property. This map is a hurricane evacuation map. The subject property is in red. Red on this map indicates a level A, which contains the most vulnerable group of people for hurricanes. The red doesn't end until Duncan Field, which is further east of this property. The comprehensive plan states the CHHA associated hazards are avoidable by restricting concentrated population and reducing densities of future developable areas. Regarding the details of the conceptual plan, the ISR proposed 34%, which meets the 50% limit of the MDR district. The applicant has indicated that the wetland line is also the east property line. It appears the structures meet setbacks except for maybe that picnic area in the top right-hand corner near the wetland line. The development is required to have at least 45 spaces. The applicant is providing 48 spaces. The Land Development Code requires a 15-foot type C along residential. And you just heard that the applicant's willing to put that buffer along West Seven Rivers Drive. And along the east, they already exceed that with a 20-foot type C. And then they will have to address the walking trail because it does look like it interrupts the buffer along West Venable and the West Seven Rivers Drive buffer. So they right now it would impede that, but the walking trail should be outside the required buffer areas. And also along West Venable Street, there is pavement, so maybe they could redesign that slightly so that it doesn't impede that buffer area. The applicant has indicated that there is central utilities available. At the density proposed, central water and central sewer are required for this project development. If approved, the applicant will need to provide letters of capacity for central utilities and solid waste. The development, if approved, would also be required to meet large non-residential standards, including things like facade, lighting, and landscaping. To conclude, the proposed development is not consistent with the neighborhood and may not be compatible with the surrounding area. Staff does understand the need for more multifamily housing in the county. However, the proposed MDR is not consistent with the land use atlas map and the future land use map. And the comprehensive plan is clear that population concentration shall not be in the coastal high hazard areas.
Miranda, just to clarify one thing, was it your testimony that if they applied for a PUD as LDR, that they would not be able to place 30 plus homes in 5 acres because of the requirements of the LDC?
I stated the LDR by right. If they didn't come to you with a PUD and they just did by right, they would only be allowed maybe up to 10 units, but I didn't take into account the 100-foot road frontage that each single family parcel would have to have.
I understand, but the applicant is saying, well, if we didn't do 30 duplexes, we could do 30 single family homes with a PUD in the LDR, and you're saying impossible?
In theory, they might be able to have that, but you still have to take into account the wetland properties, and each, like I said, each parcel, I don't know that number, but each parcel would have to have 100-foot of road frontage and at least be a half acre.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Wilburn, did you have any questions for staff? Well, board, do you have any questions for staff?
What about the
Mr.
parking?
Royce?
How many parking spaces are for these 32 units?
I believe I said 48 parking spaces.
And I thought you said that the walking trail was going to be outside the buffer.
Right now, it's within the buffers, but he's saying he will meet the LDC requirement, so it should be a contiguous buffer. So he'll have to redesign. I don't know where he would put the walking trail that would also meet the buffers.
And the type A buffer on West 7 Rivers, what is that? What is the type of buffer? Is it a hedge?
Along West Venable Street?
Yeah. No, on West 7 Rivers.
Oh, he would need a 15-foot type C, and right now he's proposing a 10-foot type A, and that walking trail is within that type A buffer right now.
It would be outside it.
It should be outside again. I don't know if he'll be able to meet that as proposed.
Commissioner Facemeyer.
Miranda, I have a question, and it may be a question you don't have the answer to, but at one time there was a golf course in that area in the back of this project. It's been closed for a number of years. Do you know whether that was a public or a private golf course?
I don't know that, sorry.
It was public? Yeah. David says it was public. Okay.
We'll go with that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question just in general about buffers inside or walkways inside of buffers or outside. What's the thinking on that? Like, to me, it seems like if you have a project and you have buffers and it's buffering obviously roads and other projects surrounding, the walkway should be on the inside of it.
Right, that's what she's saying, is it needs to be outside of the required buffer.
Needs to be outside of the required buffer.
Right.
And
So-
when we're saying outside,
Inside,
we don't mean toward
but outside.
the road. We don't,
Yes. Sorry
Okay.
for the confusion.
Because when you say outside, like I'm thinking it needs to be outside of the buffer.
No. So the required buffer is along the property line. So we're saying it has to be outside, which would be inside for this project.
Inside and outside, you
You
guys.
see what I'm talking about here, right? Like that's why I was confused.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Required buffer, then the walkway, then the
done?
walking trail.
Any other questions from the board?
Yes.
Commissioner Bass?
On page 10 of your report, item E, you state that as proposed, there is no adequate space to provide the required buffers. The site could be redesigned to accommodate for the buffers. With the change in buffers, do you think there would be less units on the site?
Yes, he may have to lose a duplex. I don't know. He would have
But
to
there would
redesign.
probably be a loss of a unit or two, most likely.
Possibly. I'm looking at the West Venable side.
Yeah, that's really a
where I see
design
it.
thing. Can you fit it? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, also, did I miss there's no place where they show where a dumpster would be for the removal of trash on the property?
There's not one on the master plan.
So that could also impact on a unit because there appears to be no real place the way he's got it laid out at this time, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Commissioner Royce?
This picnic area, is that outside the buffer too?
Inside or outside?
I'm talking, let's
Inside,
define
outside, or outside?
inside as where the buildings are, and outside is where the road is or the property line. How's that?
So there's 3 picnic areas. The one, I think that the 2 to the west would meet, but the one to the east, that's where the wetland line is, and so it doesn't meet wetland setbacks right now. It doesn't look like it meets 35 feet, so they're going to have to move that picnic area anyway and relocate it.
So the answer to the question is what? Is it inside the buffer or is it outside? Outside meaning towards the other areas. Inside towards the parking lot. How's that?
It's inside the wetland buffer that they're supposed to have, so it's
It would need to be moved.
it would need to be moved either way. It can't stay in that location.
I do have one more question also.
Yes, sir.
He indicated there would be a grass walkway. Obviously, we've talked about where it's located. Does the county have any concerns with it being grass as far as its overall maintenance and what it could look like at the end of, let's say, a couple of days storm event? Would we be more interested in something more solid?
I'll jump in, but the presence of a walkway is their choice for recreation to meet a recreation component.
Yep.
So we don't really say it can be grass, it can be gravel, it can't. It depends on their design and how they want to deal with stormwater. Point well taken that they have to maintain it, but right now that's their design to do the grass. Agreed that it needs to be maintained. If this application is approved, we would probably put a condition in there that which is understood in the land development code, that all recreation facilities have to be maintained.
All right.
What's the difference between a grass walkway and a lawn? I'm serious.
Yeah,
It's
right.
a lawn,
Yeah, right.
so they mow their lawn. Then
You
people
can
can
address
walk on
that
the
with the
lawn.
applicant, absolutely.
Any other questions for Miranda?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, the public portion of the meeting will now be opened. If there is anyone present in favor of the application who would like to speak, please come forward to the podium. As a reminder, individuals have 3 minutes to speak and organizations have 5 minutes. When speaking on this application, please address the board. If you have any documents you want to be entered into the record, please provide a copy to the recording secretary. And everyone, please be courteous to those at the podium when they're speaking. At this time, if anyone is in favor of the application and would like to come forward? Anyone? Okay, seeing none. Anyone opposed to the application, please come forward. And you don't have to wait for me to call you. Just keep coming one after the other if there are many speakers.
I'm kind of new at this. I'm Yvonne Boyle, and I live in Crystal Paradise Estates, and all our fellow people are here to help us oppose this. But do you need this? Thank you. Before I start, can I ask if, since we have 6 speakers here, maybe being the first, we have different categories that we want to talk about for the 3 minutes. So if you're fine with that, I have a list of them and they can just come up after I finish. Is that okay with the board?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us to partake in this. And I'm going to talk about the LDR positive impact, which will really be surprising. And I think Dr. Wilborn will probably, hopefully, like what we're saying on this. And this is versing the mid-density problem issues. So right now, we accommodate future growth. We're for this. And I think 100% of the Crystal Paradise people are for this, with restrictions, of course, with the owner's support, development of Seven Rivers property within current LDR zoning, construction and lot perimeters, and in keeping with the originally envisioned character, size, and density of homes and lots now existing in Crystal Paradise Estates. So we would really like to see single-family homes on that lot, not density, excuse me, and not the units that he's showing that are probably going to be rental units. And this, when you see the map, you're going to find out that the hazards on that area and the curves on Venable, this is really not acceptable to have all these additional units here. And we are strictly single-family homes and mostly 1-acre lots. This property was sold at $99,000 in June of 22, just last year, which was within the LDR guidelines and the neighborhood characteristics, and could still be profitable, provide housing growth, and provide additional tax benefits to local government. So we think the way it was or is with the single family, you can still make money on this project. And if he would like to just revamp his thinking and do the dwellings, that would be advisable to us. We oppose rezoning to MDR, which is the mid-density, for development of these 5.3 acres as provided in the application. The application was submitted by an outside engineering firm and owner that do not live in the area. Am I buzzing here?
Yes, ma'am, if you want to conclude your comments, because you have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. So anyway, the moral of the story is we are all accommodating community growth wisely, safely, but only within the existing LDR guidelines. And for the record, may I submit this document to the board for inclusion into the agenda minutes?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll give you a copy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Hello, my name is James Paquette, and I live at 7824 West Flight Path Court in Crystal River, and I am one of the people here who's been asked to speak on behalf of my neighbors. I apologize for reading this, but I don't want to forget anything. I want to make it as correct as possible. Rezoning 7630 West Seven Rivers Drive from LDR to MDR is in conflict of the county's comprehensive plan and will have a direct negative impact on the 310 plus residents of Crystal Paradise Estates if approved. We feel that it's not consistent with the aesthetics of the single family homes in our neighborhood. The homes in Crystal Paradise Estates, which include homes on Seven Rivers, do not have sewage. We all use septic tanks. If 32 units are built on a little more than 5 acres, sewage would have to be included, and I heard about that, in those homes. Also consider the impact on our infrastructure. A few homes in our subdivision are connected to city water, but the majority, 200+ use wells. We are restricted to watering once a week. Now, how would adding another 32 units address the water? Conservation. That and an additional burden to the emergency personnel in our area. The fire department is really small. We already are getting 900+ homes a couple of miles away on corner Rock Crusher and Venable. According to the comprehensive plan, medium-density residential development shall be encouraged to set land aside within the development for composting, yard trash. When looking at this application, I did not see specific area for this. We strongly feel that based on the performance standards that we have been established by the county regarding drainage, flood protection, utilities, separation of uses and buffering, densities, parking access, environmental and water resource protection, preservation of wetlands, open spaces, and convenient on-site traffic flow, this application should be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nope.
Next speaker.
Ready?
Good morning. Yes, sir.
All right. My name is Ted Tiedekin. I live at 7401 West Seven Rivers Drive. I'm a retired civil engineer, and I decided on Crystal Paradise Estates because of its unique character. The homes in this area are well spaced on 1 acre lots, well diversified buildings, and well maintained even without the rigorous control of a strong homeowners association. Many of us like to take walks, ride bicycles, especially during the cooler morning rush hour and evening. And we do that safely because even without curbs and sidewalks, because these are our friends and neighbors. We look out for our neighbors. We feel that the ability or the change of the zoning from LDR to MDR will seriously affect the quality of life in this development. Excuse me, I'm vision impaired and I have to rely on my sidekick here, Kathy. Will affect the quality of our lives. The zoning change will allow for more traffic, and we're most concerned about the possibility of safety concerns. Concerning safety now, with 32 new homes, we'll double the number of homes on Seven Rivers Drive. And the addition of probably over 40 vehicles, especially during rush hour, will seriously affect and maybe influence the possibility of speeding and reckless driving. Seven Rivers is unique that it requires the driver to maintain the position of his vehicle between the centerline markers and the mailboxes on the right. Plus, the curvature of the road, coupled with speeding, really increases the danger of serious harm. Also, some safety concerns can be root causes of some safety problems could be in the poor engineering design of the road. The location of the access road close to the inside of the curve of Seven Rivers limits sight distance of westbound traffic, and cars attempting to exit the development towards the west run the possibility of collisions. How much time do I have left?
6 seconds.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Diane?
Good morning. My name is Diane Paquette, and I also live at 7824 West Flight Path Court. I wish to address water and flooding. A portion of the proposed rezoning area is a flood zone, and my property, among others, including the airport, are in a flood zone and directly downhill from this property. And the overhead that was presented earlier, when it showed the portion of the airport, the darkened area is the flood area on the airport, is always covered with water. When we have a heavy rain, the water runoff and debris flows downhill from Seven Rivers onto our property. Our yard, as well as our neighbors, have been completely covered, so much so that we are unable to get our vehicles out of the backyard. The airport property directly adjacent to the runway across the street from us is also flooded. According to a geological U.S. survey, in addition to increasing imperviousness, I didn't think I'd say that word, removal of vegetation and soil, grading the land surface, and constructing drainage networks increase runoff volumes as a result. The peak discharge volume and frequency of floods increase. The National Flood Insurance Program based their premiums on actions communities take to reduce flood risk. I don't see how this development accomplishes that. We are paying high premiums now for our flood insurance. I am worried that if the rezoning application is approved, our rates will only go up. In our case, my husband and I are on fixed incomes, and flood insurance will be unaffordable for us. I strongly hope that this application is denied. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
That is good.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning. My name is Kristen Neeson. I live on 7316 West Seven Rivers Drive in Crystal Paradise Estates. I grew up in this neighborhood and was given the opportunity of purchasing my childhood home so that I can now raise my family. Our neighborhood is quaint, quiet, unique, and cared for dearly. I recently joined my family in real estate, and as the writer of our community newsletter, I was asked to investigate the property value impact the rezoning and building of the new residences could have on our homes and the potential environmental concerns. We recognize that affordable housing is desperately needed. Growth is vital, essential, and plays a pivotal role in our county's health and safety. And growth in our county is also planned carefully and zoned accordingly. We are currently a single-family area with septic tanks and many still on well water. Our area does not have the necessary utilities currently to support the addition of so many residences. The potential for future utility and road construction could have costly impacts on homeowners sooner rather than later. And our area was planned for single-family living, and a major change such as rezoning, the building of so many residences in that small area could cause disorder, safety issues, and the accumulation of problems will lead to a negative undertone of our area and could potentially decrease property value. With the recent opening of the Parkway extension, residents have seen an increase in traffic turning onto Venable from both sides of Seven Rivers. There has also been an increase in safety concerns with the amount of high-speed traffic Venable now sees. This is now without adding the potential of these residents, and this will continue to get worse and could have serious consequences. Another issue that we wanted to bring up is the collection of the wildlife in our area. We have bobcats, coyotes, hawks, turkeys, and protected gopher turtles. It's illegal under Florida law to move, harm, or disturb any tortoises, burrows, or eggs without a permit. If construction is planned within 25 feet of a burrow on the property, the owner must apply for a relocation permit prior to any activity. I believe that this property has several tortoise burrows, and we want to confirm that the current owner is aware of this, that the necessary precautions are taken, permits applied for, and the steps taken to protect any endangered species. We hope that an environmental study has or will be conducted to ensure any protected species are handled accordingly. And just to sum it up, affordable housing is needed and can be beneficial to our community in areas that are already zoned appropriately and can handle multi-residential homes. Rezoning a planned community of single-family homes will cause traffic and safety issues, as well as potential decrease in property values. And I, as a Crystal Paradise Estates resident, do not agree with the rezoning.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker. Anyone else opposed to this application?
Good morning. My name's Harold McCowan. I live at 7733 West Seven Rivers Drive. I have lived just across Seven Rivers Drive from the 5 acres under discussion this morning for 52 years. It has been heavily wooded all of these years. We don't want to look out our front door and see the backside of 8 duplexes and a garbage dumpster every time we go in or out of our house. That would be the view of everyone that lives in Crystal Paradise Estates. We only have 2 exits out of the community. So every time anybody would be coming home, they would look at the backside of those buildings, and the garbage dumpster's got to live somewhere there. But anyway, if the LDR zoning gets changed to MDR, the 2 lots to the east and the 19 acres on the south side of Venable, both owned by the county, could be changed to MDR because the president will already be set in the area. We've seen that happen time and time throughout the county over the years. The people of Paradise Estates' lives will be changed forever. Our quiet, peaceful neighborhood will become loud and perhaps more crime as the normal rental communities breed crime and drugs. We do not want that life change for our community. I feel that this is the reason the new owner wants to build in our neighborhood instead of across of the street from his home in Floral City. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else opposed to this application? Going once? Oh, good morning.
Hi, my name's Beth Mobley. I live at 7847 West Seven Rivers Drive. We are the first house on Seven Rivers. You've seen our house on the pictures with the white truck. When we sit on a front porch, we have a nice buffer of trees, so we won't have to see Venable, and and we also have turtles that come in our yard, and the flooding is unbelievable. So I don't know. I don't have any paper to say, but I just want to plead everybody not to change it because we bought that house because of the area, and we just don't want all that, And like I have trash in my yard all the time and trash from across the street, so I have to go across the street in the trees to clean up the trash because nobody else does it, and my neighbors also do the same thing. It's just we're going to have more trash, and how am I going to get out of my driveway? Is it going to be busy all the time? What about getting onto Venable? Is that going to be busy? We just don't want craziness in our neighborhood. We just want to live peacefully the rest of our lives. That's why we're there. So I'm just, hoping that you will see it our way, and please do not change it. Just leave it the way it is. I have talked to so many people in our neighborhood all over the place, and nobody wants this. I haven't heard one person that wanted it. So please, please, don't change it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else opposed to this application? Please come forward. Please come forward, sir. You don't have to wait for me to call you. Just come forward if you're opposed to the application.
Morning. My name's Tom Conley. I live at 7515 Seven Rivers Drive. My residence is approximately like a half mile from the intersection of Venable and Seven Rivers on the eastern end of Venable, or Seven Rivers rather. My main habit is walking for exercise. I do about 6 miles a day. Almost all of it's on Seven Rivers Drive. From my house to the intersection by proposed development is exactly a half mile. In my working life, I was a police officer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for 27 years. I worked in traffic for a good portion of that. I'm accustomed to estimating speeds and the danger of different intersections. I estimate that the average traffic moving there, depending on the time of day, is going approximately 40 to 45 miles an hour, 10 to 15 miles an hour above the speed limit. This is consistent. You can come yourselves and come in the afternoon at between 4 and 6, you'll find coming through. A lot of the traffic appears to be trucks either coming to do work in the neighborhood or people with boats on a back and moving through. That intersection coming out on a curve is a nightmare. For a cop, I'd hate to see it because it generates a ton of paperwork. That street is not very safe as it is, and then adding another, if there's 32 units, you're looking at 64 vehicles approximately. I understand the other item is, these I believe will be rental units, as duplexes are usually sold as at least partly rentals. That is a sea change from the type of neighborhood it is at this moment, in a really downgraded neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Robert Barenwald. I live at 936 North Pompeo Avenue. I'm actually on the other side of the neighborhood. I do walk 3 miles around the neighborhood every day, and I have to agree with the traffic issues. My thing was, I wanted to ask, you talked about this all being within the flood zone. There's one, if you look along the backside and actually halfway through some of those buildings, there's a little squiggly line of delineation, and I've been really racking my brain. Is that like a wetland delineation, or is that another level of the flood area delineated there? Because it runs through half of the property and half of those homes. You know, do the homes actually fit within their, I mean, I know we have certain setbacks, but there's something else we're not looking at as far as, and it looks to be because of wetland or flood zone. And especially if you're talking this many residents, and half of them are going to be flooded out all the time. Look at the way our golf course had been. So it kind of gives you an idea that the property as it sits, I mean, I'm for residential homes if that's what they want to do, but this is not a good fit. It just, you can look at it, doesn't fit. So, that was the thing, is I think we need to scratch our head and look even a little closer and make sure it either fits in or does not fit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone? Going once, twice? Okay, seeing none. Dr. Wilburn, do you want to respond?
Thank you. I will try to address comments in the order that they were given. For a point of clarification, I did want to, however, state that yes, by right, there are 10 units allowed to be on this unit, but by land use and by LDC, like I stated previously, to answer your question, there is an allowable up to 32 units in the LDR. Another thing I'd like to point out is Miranda was correct that in the LDC, the requirement is that traffic is not negatively impacted. It doesn't use the word slightly or significantly. 100% true. That is why the engineering report that you guys have is stated and worded exactly the way it is, that there is no negative impact complying with the requirements in our own LDC. The picnic area on the east side and the other two picnic areas on the site, they are just that. They're not structures, they're tables. There's no pavilion or anything like that called out for. Also want to draw your attention to adjacent to the asphalt all the way down on both sides of the sidewalk, and that can be incorporated into the walking trail as well, which is designed to be grass and flexible. Number one, the first speaker, I want to just point out that, as many of you guys know, I'm not an outsider, as was suggested. I was born and raised here, and my first time before you guys was 2008. Green as green can be, scared to death, and still here enjoying our county. And the second thing I want to bring up, and it came up twice in the speakers, is that a lot of these houses on the north side and subsequently on the east side down that Seven Rivers Boulevard are on wells and septics. And so because they're on wells and because they're on septics, this project connecting to city water and city sewer will have no negative impact on them. By definition, it'll actually improve the building of this area. And as you may note, in the staff report, it even states that if this was developed LDR, they could put septic tanks within the allowable density. And so we're not proposing to do wells, we're not proposing to do septic, so we're not having any impact on any neighboring wells or any neighboring septic tanks. The roadway, the access road that is shown on the site plan is where it is because it aligns with the road directly across from it. In the staff report, it says that the engineering division of our county has approved that location, and this location is in conformance with the FDOT guidelines, which is why it's placed where it is. There was some concerns over flooding. I believe 3 people spoke on flooding. This site, as I mentioned, is designed to hold a 100-year storm event. Other areas very close by are designed only for a 25-year storm. So this is a higher level of scrutiny, a higher level of protection, and we are not allowed through the Water Management District to receive a permit that would negatively impact for storm or flooding any adjacent properties. And also would like to point out that the retention area on this site is approximately 2 acres for that very reason. Septic tank again. Oh, the buffer, the type C buffer that is in the staff report, I believe on page 9, describes a type C that is, I believe, 6 trees and 24 shrubs per 100 feet. And there was a lady who got up and graciously spoke in the beginning about her buffer that she currently has and how great it is at blocking and helping visibility and not being able to see. I thought that was an interesting point because that's what buffers are designed and intended to do. And so I would submit that this buffer along Venable and along Seven Rivers would do much the same. This project is over 5 acres in size, and the environmental concerns that were mentioned will have to be addressed. That's also in your staff report. Anything over 5 acres has to have a biological survey completed, and any animals found or located would need to be mitigated through the proper channels with FWC and our Citrus County Land Development and Building Department. There was a comment about where I live in Floral City. I want to just use that comment to point at something with this site. Floral City, where I live, can't have a development like this. We don't have water, we don't have sewer, we don't have infrastructure. This site has infrastructure. It's a great place for this because of the water and sewer that are already in place. And there's not a lot of places in our county that can't have that due to the need for water and sewer. I've already mentioned flooding and no impact. And the last thing I want to mention, I believe the last gentleman talked about that squiggly line. That squiggly line that you see running through some of those houses on the south side is the flood elevation line. And so because that is the flood elevation line, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't build in it. A lot of houses on the west coast of our county are built in 100% flood zones all the time. A lot of properties along the lake, same way. A Florida building code requires that those houses on that south side, those units be 1 foot above flood elevation. And so we would have to comply with the Florida building code and FEMA regulations for those structures. But that's what that squiggly line is. It's not a wetland line. The wetland line, as I mentioned, is the property boundary that you see in odd shape with the legal descriptions attached to it. It is simply a wetland line. And that is all I have, unless you guys have any further questions for me.
I'd just like for you to clarify. I understand the difference between by right and by PUD. You're saying you can put 32 by PUD, which I get that. But do you have the space? I don't think you have the space when complying with the code. What do you testify to that?
There are 32 units on that site right now. Those units are spaced 20 feet apart. They could be brought in closer. The density to me in a multifamily like this is not the issue. I believe we could comply with the buffers as stated. I believe we could comply with the amenity of the walking trail, especially when you count the sidewalks. And so I think when I say by right, or when staff says by right, and when I say with PUD, we're saying the same things. It's just a different order, different level. The coastal high hazard area in our land development code specifically is tied to a land use, not a by right, not a potential, but by land use. And so in keeping with the intent by use, land development code LDR allows up to 6 units. And so that's what I was simply stating, that we're not exceeding that which by use is allowed in that area now.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're going to close the public portion and bring the discussion back to the board. Anyone want to start?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Royce.
I've got concerns about this parking thing. I'm looking at this parking lot. 48 parking spaces. You'll notice that half of them are parallel parking. I don't know many Floridians that know how to parallel park. Number one. Number two, doesn't seem to be an accommodation for service vehicles to come in and park during the day. There's gotta be service people. And also, if you have 32 two-bedroom units, assuming there'll be more than one person in each one of them, that means there could be the possibility, very likelihood of 2 cars per unit. That is going to mean some people are going to be looking for a parking place because there'll be no place to park, just by sheer arithmetic. I also know that from being on this board for a couple of years, that some definitions or descriptions for housing have crept into our vocabulary. Some of them are workforce housing, medium, affordability housing, all this. And if you don't like that, you don't like puppies and orphans. I'm sorry, I like puppies, and I don't have any opinion on orphans. I don't like this. I think that this is too crowded. And I think 3 picnic areas is an overdue. I don't know what's with that. And for me, a grass walkway is a lawn. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Royce. Anyone else?
Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Stone.
I keep asking whether or not that land use designations are just a placeholder until something else better comes along. This whole area is low-density residential. Everything surrounding it is low-density residential. And now, once again, we have the developer wanting to come in and change it to medium-density residential with rental properties. There are many places in the county that you can build medium-density residential properties. You don't need to go into the middle of a single-family neighborhood and start building multi-family rental properties. It's just inappropriate. I think the land use map says what we should be doing, and we shouldn't be doing this. Okay, so I will be opposed to this.
Thank you, Commissioner Stone. Anyone else? Commissioner Facemeyer?
I have a question, I guess, for staff. If we left this zoned LDR, how many homes or units could be built on this site?
LDR allows 2, because they can have a half acre for each one, so there's 5 acres. So theoretically, you could put 10 homes here if you can meet the road frontage. With a PUD, correct, you can ask for more, you can ask for relief, up to 6 units an acre, still not multifamily.
Right.
So everyone's gonna have, so what Miranda was talking about, the 100 feet and
Yeah,
half acre
I'm just thinking
thing.
density,
LDR today, 2 units per acre.
Okay. My real opposition to this application is that it's located in the coastal high hazard area. I know there's technology and engineering steps and processes that can mitigate, flooding and water. But my earlier question about the golf course is, and I'm a golfer, I never had the time or the opportunity to play Seven Rivers Golf Course, but I understand it closed because of the fact it was too wet and it was going to require a lot of money and effort to make it dry. So anyway, I know that area is wet, and we need to preserve that part of our county because it frequently floods, and it'll certainly flood with the next major storm. So that's my opposition, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Commissioner Facemeyer.
Yes,
Anyone else? Commissioner Bass?
I'm not in favor of this application either. Going from the LDR to the MDR, there's no reason, in my opinion, they still can make it profitable at the end of the day. Also, just the fact that he's offered some changes, I think it would change the overall style of the plan, which would be different than what we'd be approving. Just based on the information that's given to us, I just don't find this a good project for this location.
Thank you, Commissioner Bass. Anyone else? Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, I'll just echo all the other statements made by the commissioners, especially Mr. Facemeyer, because for me, I like the project. The coastal high hazard area and the issues that it creates with that are the determining factor for me. So I will be against this application.
I too am not in favor of this application. I don't find that it's compatible with this area. You know, obviously multifamily, one owner, it would be very commercial, and in a medium density residential even still, I don't think it's appropriate. It definitely isn't appropriate for low density residential surrounded by that. So it's incompatible, and it's just not right for this space, and I'm not in favor. And if anyone else has a comment, or I'm looking for a motion, Commissioner Barnes, I don't want to take away from you.
I agree with everything that's been said. I do not support this application.
Madam Chair, for
Commissioner Bass?
the motion, the Plan and Development Commission finds application number CP-AA-PUD-22-20 with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and other county land development code, and that this board recommends denial of the application to the Board of County Commissioners based upon the evidence and testimony presented in the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bass, a second by Commissioner Facemeyer. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0.
And just a reminder, excuse me, Madam Chair,
Thank you. Okay.
this is a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. It's not a final hearing, so this will be set for a later final hearing with the Board of County Commissioners. If you receive notice, you'll get another notice. Anything that you have turned in as far as public input, including what was submitted today, will be forwarded to the county commissioners for their hearing. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay, any other business? You said you had something else?
I do. Your next meeting on April 20th, we have 3 applications. Just to let you know that there may be signs when you come in that the growth management is going to close to the public for that day. We're implementing a new permitting system. It is completely different from what we're working on. So we're giving ourselves, building division, us, and code enforcement, some time to actually figure out how to do it before we go live with the public. So April 20th, the doors will be open, but if you see signs, keep coming in. We still have our hearing on that day. Your next meeting in May, we also have 3 items. The second meeting in May, you are going to see the Ozello RV Park Campground again. They have submitted some changes, so you're going to hear that again. It is the only item on that agenda, so we won't have to sit through hours and hours. It'll be the only item. And finally, we have hired 2 new planners, and they're sitting quietly in the back of the room until I embarrass them. Melissa Morris and Ashley Baldwin, stand up, please.
Welcome.
They are picking up the land development code very quickly, so hopefully you'll see them later in the year with a presentation. We also have hired another coordinator to give Liz some relief, and Stephanie Stevens will be starting with us in the next few weeks. So we're good on personnel, and you have no cancellations of meetings in the coming months. We have constant development coming.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, thank you. Any other business, board?
I have 2 items. One is very minor, but as you know, I like to do the site visits, and the sites are most often identified by me by the signs, the white signs are put up. I'm just curious, but they're not always there. I'm just curious to know if that's a staff function to put those signs out.
It is, and
whether they stay there or not. You can't
Yeah, one in particular that people keep removing it because they don't want the application. The neighbors are, but yes, we do post them. If we're told they're down, we'll try to go out there again. But after that, we can't just keep putting them up every week. But that is staff's function. We try to do that right away. Within the first week or 2.
Most of the time they're there, and sometimes it helps me identify the proper site because my fat fingers get the GPS wrong sometimes.
Yeah, no problem.
The other item I had was I've been bringing my own laptop to the last several meetings, and for me, it works out very well. So I'm going to ask Cheryl to not make me paper copies anymore.
Can we talk about the, yeah.
Can you hear me? Is it on?
Try again. If not, I'll talk for you, but I don't want to.
Here we go.
There we go.
I'll share. Okay, we'll use this one. We have it in this year's or next year's budget to provide each board member a tablet, a readable tablet, Kindle-like type tablet, so that we can preload the packets and that allow you to scroll through it, and you're not carrying around a large 3-ring binder. So we're working with IT department on that to get that approved, so that come October we can purchase everyone a tablet.
So coming soon, we'll stop killing so many trees. Okay.
As long as you still have the ability to write and highlight on it, on the actual agenda item.
Yes, that was one of the items that they made sure to have, is that you can take notes on the tablet.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.